grandfather area, I'm in the working class, am I in the poor area? So it gives you a good idea to read about, okay, where am I in the city right here? I think. Cool, so we're gonna get back to that. So before we do, I want to talk, got a couple wins in here.
We were talking about the schools, and so that's a 6 or 4. Who's writing them already?
Greatschools.org, a good site. Go on there, there's a couple out there, but that's one that's pretty easy right there, because you'll go through them all and rate them, and that gives you a good rating. Yeah.
Do you care about flood zones, or?
You can, and flood zones are easy to go on there, and just put on a property, but again, I work in flood zones through my family for a lot. I don't want to be in flood zones that I'm going to be out of control. Like if it's an X, I don't care, because an X is something that doesn't have much factor, but I don't want to be in an A or a B that's got a point where you're going to have to pay flood insurance, even if you own the property outright, and there's no determination where that flood insurance is going, and it's increasing. That's just for me. But if you're literally on the East Coast, you're always in a flood zone. Like if you're in Jersey City, you're in a flood zone. If you're in, Charleston, you're in a flood zone. So I don't want to deal with a flood zone in like Indiana. I just want to these weird areas where I'm just going to get hit with a river when it rains too hard or something. I'll stay away. But for some of the East Coast and the West Coast, you're just in flood zones. That's going to be, if that fits your model, that's for you to kind of determine. Cool. Questions? All right. Where's start? We got a couple wins in here. Arun, I'll make you start. Go ahead.
Oh,
What do you got for a win?
we have a property in Phoenix, Arizona, 137 units, and the contract we're going through the fundraise.
Yeah. Crushing out there in Phoenix. That's some awesome marks. I know a couple other people are out here looking in Phoenix, so if you got some questions, talk to Arun about that. So we actually just beat our pain pool in our 48 unit. I didn't even tell you this by just close to $25,000, which is good because I actually had that perform it in $25,000 more. And through talking to relationships in the town, found a guy whose dad knows every contractor in town, and he gave me whatever this painter is, Juan Maxey. And Juan Maxey does a great job, but he beat our paint pool by $25,000, which is pretty sweet. But that goes by just keep building your network in your area. If you don't feel comfortable with who you are, keep pricing it out because you get comfortable with one group. That's $25,000 now we put towards another capital project we have in there. And I'm using them for the 32 units we have over there too. So pretty sweet. Who else has some wins? And it can be anything. Simple as that. But some people are locking on properties. Who else has some wins out there? There's a big room here, so don't tell me nobody's got a win here. Come on. What are you working on? Nothing yet? Okay, Frank, I know you were out there. We were talking.
We were in contract on 16 unit in Lexington, but unfortunately we
16 or 16?
16. So we were just trying, but unfortunately we walked the property. The capex was just too much, so we got it back out.
Did you try to retreat? Or?
No, we didn't. We didn't think it was. He was pretty firm on his number, so.
Stay on them, you never know.
Yeah, we're still gonna look at it.
Firm starts here, but then months down the
Yeah.
road, right? We got a property. Our first $1 million off by just being patient. So, but at first, everybody has a number in their mind until everybody else tells them it's not a real number.
Right.
So, cool. Who else is working on stuff?
Dan Schumbacher. Came to the point where it was time for me to formalize my capital raising business, so I launched Shome Capital, helping syndicators raise money. Currently working with an operator out of Florida on a 506C, so accredited investors only, 384 units. Looks pretty solid, so closed out, raised this week. So if you're accredited and interested, you got 2 days, call me.
Good. All right, anybody else? Come on. All right, well, we're going to jump into a deal here. This is the T12. For anybody who hasn't heard that term, it's the trailing 12 months of financials. Generally, when we get a property across, we're going to look to have some kind of profit and loss statement, a rent roll, or a T12, and that's going to show us the last 12 months of operation. So we're in July now. Hopefully they have June done, the June all the way back to last July. And the reason we want to see the last 12 months is because different areas may have different functions. It may be easier to lease in the summer. So if they just send us the summer months, you may see the rents really jacked up. For winter, rents may be real down, collections may be high, you may have snow removal or some other things that you don't actually see there. So we're looking for the last 12 months, just so we get a good read about how the property's operating. This is 136 units, built in 1971, Class C plus asset, B to B minus area. Just because this was just out there, it's located somewhere in the Midwest, you know, it's in an area that's blue collar, working class. So what we're going to do tonight is break up by groups. I figure if we want to just do each row, I think we got about 30s. Each row just break out a group. We got a bunch of tables back there. We're going to give you a T12 and some questions. This is what the T12 is going to look like here. All right.
It's hard to see here, but we print
It's
it
hard
out.
to see
It's
here.
hard to
Don't
see
print
here,
it
but we
out.
print
You
it
don't
out.
need this. But again, we're going to go through here. We're going to do some general questions because this is going to be some of the digging we're going to dive into when we just get this across, just so we're not wasting, you know, 4 or 5 hours of our life just even seeing if the property makes sense for us. So we're going to dig into this, dive in, just ask some questions. I think questions come up here. We'll do 10 questions. You guys can work together, and you know, and we'll come around and talk to you guys with them. Some have more answers than not. Some are specific number questions. And again, we will dive in to seeing what you're going to actually look for when you do get this deal across. The fun part here is like kind of being a detective, right? You're gonna go in this and you're gonna look at this and say, okay, this doesn't make sense. You're like, oh, something's off here. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna be able to tell a story about this property. And it's either gonna be something of a good story where you're gonna say, okay, well, I can find some value here. We can make this property better. This might be something we want to go after. Or ultimately, this property is just off, just not the right deal for us. It doesn't fit for X number of factors. So that's the goal tonight for that. Questions, comments before we start breaking this out?
How do you verify counter expenses?
So, depends how far you can get down the road. You're not going to, of course, get that up front. You're not going to go in there and before you just even get into the property, be able to go in there and do a lease audit. Once we get into it, we'll do a lease audit, depending on how big the project is. There's companies like Schofield will come in there, you can pay them to do lease audits, or the property management company come in there and do rental lease audits for you. But that's going to be further down the line when we're into due diligence, where we probably have accepted a LOI going to a PSA. We're not going to do that day one because the seller's just not going to give us that time yet.
And if you're placing debt on the property, that's all part of your checklist of things you have to do. You have to verify all the rent rolls, you have to verify all the utilities, all the taxes, everything like that. So that's kind of later on down the road. This, like I think we want to go through this exercise if we were screening a deal up front before making an offer.
Because again, sometimes people may be on their tax returns. They're not going to give me their tax returns, they'll just analyze the deal day one. But again, you're going to look from us for a high level. When you get into under contract, you have a lot more stuff that will come across just because we give them a checklist of what we're going to expect of them before due diligence starts. So the way we're going here is we have 28 items on a due diligence checklist. Here's our due diligence checklist. Part of in the PSA will be due diligence does not begin until we give you written notice that we received all these items on the checklist. Will they have all them? Depends on how sophisticated the group is. Maybe. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. You know, we bought a property, they had 2 leases on 48 units. So they didn't have everything. They said, shocker. But at that point, that's a lot of value. You got the patience to dig through it and find a story, and get a super deal. Some people don't, they just can't understand it. So we're going to look for deals where they have everything. Well, that's everybody can get that. So now they're trying to compete on that same level playing. But Easter family.
So the one we were looking at in Lexington, the guy had like multiple properties and commingled everything with bank statements and all that. The first question, is that common? And number 2, is that something that you would then steer clear of, or would you how would you deal with that?
So no, right? So yeah, it's common. Like you just not everybody's like set up that I'm going to run this as a business. They're just like, I got a property, okay, I got another property, and I got another. All of a sudden now they got 10 properties, and it's like, wow, what am I doing? I just got them all mixed together. Where you can find value, right? If you know what the property actually takes. So let's just say 100-unit property. 100-unit property needs, 1 leasing person, 1 maintenance person, just on status quo. Well, 94-unit, right? So we're looking at this, you have 3 maintenance people. What the hell are they doing with 3 maintenance people? What is going on? Well, the factor that they had 1,000 single-family homes, and they were putting all the maintenance people from there into the expenses. So it was really just overloading their expenses. But because we knew what we needed right there, it looked like their expenses were just way out of whack. So you just look at this on the surface, you say, well, this doesn't make sense because the expenses are just way too high. Well, okay, if the expenses are $4,700 a unit, But we know for us, we can operate anywhere between 3,800 and 4,000 a unit. So that's savings for us because we knew it was built in there. So as soon as you start diving into this and understand what the area warrants, and a good way for that, you know, the lenders, they're underwriting properties everywhere. They can give you an expectation of where they're going to underwrite the deal at from an expense level. The property managers, they're the ones that are going to have to manage the property. So if you go in there and say, hey, you know, in the converse, each unit is costing on the T12 only $2,000 per unit. Is that realistic? They're going to say, no, it's $4,000. And then now you can build that back into your number because they're the one who are going to have to execute their plan.
But to answer your question too, though, their lack of sophistication and organization is the area where you can capitalize on. And you mentioned that the kind of the 16 unit was part of kind of like a greater, however many units. Make the offer on the larger number of units because you might be willing or able to pay a little bit more on a price per unit basis for the larger number of units because you can benefit from the economies of scale.
And you can find a lot of ways where they may be missing income. They may not even be counting your laundry income, or maybe not even counting your pet income. So that's not even counting into what the value of the property is. Also, just because they're doing a lot of the roles, they may not include it in the expenses. Maybe they're doing their own taxes, or maybe, you know, like they're doing their admin work, or they're doing their leasing. So now that's just to them all free, or they're managing the property. Well, now you build that back in, and you can have a story to them, like, hey, you know, Sally, Jane, and Joe, I see you guys are managing your own property, so I don't have that in, but I'm here in New Jersey buying a property in Lexington, 1,000 miles away. I have to hire a property manager at, you know, 3, 4, 8%, whatever it comes out to there, and build that back in. So it's easier for you to make that offer instead of just saying, you know, 500,000 lower than you want. Well, here's my story of why. Because the value is I'm not going to be able to get the same cash flow as you, because the cash flow they're actually getting is they're actually paying themselves in the cash flow. They're not actually counting it as part of, you know, payments as a role or as a salary. Make sense? Cool. All right, guys. So, yeah, we're not grading. We're not doing anything. We'll just get out there and, you know, do what it is. Break up the rows. We got a couple more people not joining the group. You know, for that point.
Yeah.
I'm going to check my questions.
Yeah, no,
I just got back from seeing my wife's family. I literally had a baby in one hand and doing answers on the other with this. So hopefully I'm right at my point. We'll get into those. We'll do them together and see how we got into that.